In the heart of West Africa, a great mystery sleeps. It sleeps under the hot sun. It rests in the quiet grasslands of Senegal and the Gambia. Here, ancient stones stand guard. They form perfect circles, silent and still. For centuries, they have watched the world change around them. They have seen empires rise and fall. They have felt the seasons turn again and again. Yet they remain, holding their secrets close. These are the Senegambian Stone Circles. They are a puzzle left behind by a forgotten people, and they seem to wait for something or someone to return. Imagine walking through the tall, dry grass. The air is thick with the smell of dust and wild herbs. Suddenly you see them, rows and rows of reddish-brown pillars. They rise from the earth like ancient sentinels. Some are short and stout, others tower over you, tall and lean. They are arranged in careful, deliberate circles. There is a deep quiet here, a silence that feels older than time itself. The wind whispers through the stones, and for a moment, you feel like you are not alone. You feel as if you have stepped into a sacred, forbidden place, a place where the past is not dead. It is just listening. This is not just one place. It is a massive collection of monuments. Over 1,000 circles are scattered across a territory that spans 100 kilometers wide and 350 kilometers long. Think about that. Thousands of stone rings spread across a vast landscape. Each one is a testament to incredible effort and a shared belief. Who were these people? What drove them to lift these heavy laterite stones and arrange them with such care? The local people today look upon these circles with a mix of reverence and fear. They call them the Forbidden Grounds, places where the spirits of the old kings linger, watching over their ancient domain. The feeling you get when you stand among them is hard to describe. It is a mix of wonder and a slight chill down your spine. The sun beats down, but the air around the stones feels cooler. The world outside the circle seems to fade away, leaving you in a bubble of profound antiquity. You might reach out to touch one of the pillars. Its surface is rough, weathered by more than 1,000 years of sun and rain. As your fingers trace the coarse texture, you can't help but wonder about the hands that carved it. What were they thinking? What message did they intend to leave? The stones don't answer. They just stand there, silent watchers on the African savannah. The scale of this ancient project is staggering. It is a marvel of human determination. The builders of these circles did not have modern tools. They did not have cranes or powerful machines. They had their hands, their minds, and a deep understanding of their environment. They quarried massive pillars of laterite, a reddish, iron-rich rock. Some of these pillars weigh up to 7 tons. That is heavier than an elephant. They then transported these immense stones, sometimes over long distances, to their chosen sites. This was not a simple task. It required immense planning, coordination, and a large dedicated workforce. What makes this feat even more remarkable is the precision. The circles are not just random collections of stones. They are mathematically precise. The builders shaped the pillars into almost perfect cylinders or squared-off forms. They stood them upright and arranged them in circles so accurate you could draw them with a compass. This level of precision, achieved over 1,500 years ago, is mind-boggling. It suggests a society with a sophisticated knowledge of geometry, a society that valued order and symbolism. This was not the work of a primitive tribe. It was the work of a culture that was organized, intelligent, and deeply connected to a powerful idea. Archaeologists have dated these monuments. They tell us the circles were built between the 3rd century BC and the 16th century AD. This is an immense span of time. It means this tradition of building stone circles lasted for nearly 2,000 years. It outlived generations, kingdoms, and entire civilizations. The oldest of these circles are contemporaries of the Roman Empire. They predate many of the famous cathedrals of Europe. Yet, we know so little about the people who built them. They left behind no written language, no grand cities that we have found. All they left were these silent, enigmatic rings of stone. The sheer number of these monuments deepens the mystery. There are nearly 30,000 individual stone pillars recorded in the region. Imagine the human energy that went into this. Tens of thousands of people, over dozens of generations, all working towards a common goal. Why? What belief could be so powerful as to inspire such a long-lasting and monumental effort? The stones themselves offer few clues. They are a blank slate, a riddle carved not in words but in the very earth itself, a silent challenge to all who come after, asking us to understand a world that has long since vanished. One of the most haunting aspects of the Senegambian circles is the silence of history. There are no written records from the builders themselves. No carvings on the stones tell us their names, their kings, or their gods. It is as if an entire culture capable of such incredible feats of engineering simply vanished from the pages of time. We have found their burial sites. Beneath the center of many circles, archaeologists have unearthed human remains, along with pottery, iron weapons, and beads. This tells us the circles were, at least in part, tombs. They were monuments to the dead, likely important leaders or noble families. But this only answers the what, not the why. The mystery deepens when you consider the stories of disappearances. Local legends are filled with tales of people who ventured too close to the circles at the wrong time and were never seen again. Elders speak of strange mists that would rise around the stones at dusk, and anyone caught within them would be lost forever. Are these just cautionary tales meant to keep children away from sacred sites? Or do they hint at something more? Researchers and explorers in past centuries have also reported strange occurrences. Teams would find their equipment malfunctioning near the circles. Surveyors would find their compasses spinning wildly. These reports are often dismissed, filed away as anecdotes. There are gaps in the archaeological record too. While we find graves, we find very few signs of large settlements nearby. Where did the thousands of workers who built these circles live? Where are the villages that supported this massive, centuries-long project? It is as if they came from nowhere, built their monuments, and returned to nothingness. This lack of a clear, historical footprint is deeply unsettling. It challenges our understanding of how ancient societies worked. It suggests a people who were perhaps nomadic or who lived in a way that left very little trace upon the land, except for these thousands of tons of stone. This absence of information has created a vacuum, and that vacuum has been filled with whispers. Whispers of a powerful kingdom that was cursed and wiped from memory. Whispers of a forbidden knowledge that was buried with the kings under the stones. Some even speculate that the builders were not from this world. While scientists search for logical explanations, the silence of the stones allows the imagination to run wild. The lack of history is not just a missing piece of the puzzle. It is a piece of the puzzle itself. It is a deliberate silence, one that feels purposeful and profound. While the circles served as burial grounds, many researchers believe they had another, more complex purpose. This purpose might be written not on the stones, but in the sky above them. When you study the layout of these sites, especially the larger ones, you begin to see patterns. The circles are not just circles. They are part of a larger geometric design. Lines of stones often lead away from the main rings. Some circles are arranged in pairs or groups, suggesting a relationship between them. This is not random placement. This is intentional design on a landscape scale, a form of sacred geometry that we are only just beginning to understand. Some of the most intriguing evidence points to an astronomical function. Certain stones within the circles and the orientation of the circles themselves seem to align with celestial events. Researchers have found alignments with the rising and setting of the sun on the solstices. This means the builders could track the seasons. They knew the longest and shortest days of the year. This was vital knowledge for an agricultural society. It told them when to plant and when to harvest. The circles then were not just tombs for the dead, they were calendars for the living, a way to connect the earth below with the heavens above. But the alignments may go even further. Some researchers have proposed connections to the movements of the moon, or even distant stars. One prominent feature at some sites is a single stone, often V-shaped or lyre-shaped, that stands apart from the circle. This is known as the frontal stone. It often sits on the eastern side of the circle. What was its purpose? Was it an observation point? A marker for a specific star that rose on a specific night? Proving these theories is difficult. The stones have shifted over the centuries, and our knowledge of the ancient sky is incomplete. Yet, The evidence is compelling. This idea transforms the circles from simple graveyards into complex observatories. It suggests the builders were not just engineers, but also astronomers. They possessed a deep and intricate knowledge of the cosmos. They saw the universe as a clock, and they built their most sacred monuments to reflect its divine order. The burials at the center would then take on a new meaning. The dead were not just being buried. They were being placed at the very center of the universe, at the intersection of heaven and earth, a place where their spirits could be eternally connected to the great cosmic dance. So, who built these circles and why? The academic world offers several theories grounded in science and archaeology. The most widely accepted view is that they are the burial sites of kings and chiefs from the many different cultures that have lived in this region over the millennia. The size and effort involved in building a circle would have been a display of power and prestige. It was a way for a ruling family to cement its legacy. The artifacts found in the graves, iron lances, copper bracelets, and carnelian beads, support this idea. They were the possessions of a wealthy and powerful elite. However, even this straightforward theory has its limits. It doesn't fully explain the astronomical alignments or the sheer number and density of the circles. Why build so many? Why continue the tradition for almost 2,000 years across different cultures and languages? Some scholars suggest the circles were also important social and religious centers. They were not just for funerals, they were places where people gathered for ceremonies, to make treaties, or to celebrate important seasonal festivals. They were the cathedrals of their day, the focal point of community life, binding people together through shared ritual and belief. Then, there are the more speculative, supernatural theories. These ideas live in the stories of the local people and the minds of fringe researchers. Some believe the circles are built on lines of natural earth energy, often called ley lines. They see the stones as giant acupuncture needles for the planet, placed at specific points to channel or control this energy. This, they say, would explain the strange equipment malfunctions and the feeling of a different atmosphere inside the circles. The stones, in this view, are not just markers. They are active participants in a global energy grid, with a purpose we have long forgotten. The most extreme theories step into the realm of ancient astronauts. They propose that the knowledge of geometry and astronomy was given to the ancient peoples of Senegambia by visitors from another world. The circles in this narrative could be beacons, landing markers, or even power sources for extraterrestrial technology. While there is no physical evidence to support such claims, the profound mystery of the circles leaves room for such fantastic ideas. The silence of the past allows for any voice, no matter how strange, to offer an explanation. The stones themselves just listen, keeping their truth locked away. To truly understand the stone circles, you must listen to the people who have lived beside them for generations. You must listen to the griots, the oral historians of West Africa. They are the keepers of memory, the living libraries of their people. When you ask a griot about the stones, their face becomes serious. They will tell you that the circles are the resting places of the ancient kings, the great spirits of the land. They are not to be disturbed. To disrespect the stones is to disrespect the ancestors, and this can bring great misfortune. One griot from the Sine Saloum region shared a story passed down through his family. He spoke of a time when foreign men came and wanted to take one of the stones for a museum. The elders of the village warned them against it. They said, "That stone does not belong to you. It belongs to the king who sleeps beneath it." The men did not listen. They brought ropes and machines. But as they began to pull, a great storm rose from a clear sky. The wind howled and lightning struck the ground near the circle. The men were terrified and fled, leaving the stone in its place. The storm, the griot said, was the king's spirit, protecting his home. These warnings are not just ancient folklore, they are a living part of the local culture. People avoid the circles after dark. They do not take anything from the sites, not even a small pebble. They believe the spirits of the dead are still there, watching. They are the guardians of the circles. Some stories say that at night you can sometimes see faint lights moving among the stones, or hear the faint sound of drums and chanting on the wind. These are the spirits holding their eternal court. Anyone who interrupts them does so at their own peril. A researcher who spent months studying the circles shared an experience. He often worked late, charting the positions of the stones. One evening, as the sun set, he felt a sudden intense feeling of being watched. He was completely alone, miles from any village, but the feeling was overwhelming. He packed his equipment in a hurry, his heart pounding. As he looked back at the circle from a distance, he thought he saw a tall, shadowy figure standing beside one of the largest pillars. It was gone in an instant. He could not explain it, but he never stayed at the circles after sunset again. He had heard the Guardian's warning. What if the stories are true? What if the primary purpose of the stones was not just to mark a grave? What if it was to hold something in? This is a chilling thought, one that lingers in the folklore of the region. Some of the oldest legends do not speak of honoring the dead, but of containing them. They tell of powerful kings who were so feared in life that their people performed great rituals to ensure their spirits could not return to walk the earth. The circles, in this version of the story, are not monuments, they are spiritual prisons. The massive stones are the bars of a cage. This idea casts the entire site in a new, more sinister light. The geometric precision is no longer about beauty or astronomy. It is about the power of a sacred symbol to bind and contain. The burials at the center are not places of rest, but of confinement. It would explain the deep-seated fear and reverence the local people have for these places. They are not just respecting the ancestors, they are actively participating in keeping them at bay. By leaving the stones undisturbed, they are ensuring the locks on these ancient cages remain strong. This theory might also account for the reported strange phenomena. The feeling of being watched, the equipment failures, the ghostly apparitions. Perhaps these are not the actions of peaceful guardians, but the faint echoes of powerful, restless spirits rattling the bars of their eternal prison. The whispers on the wind are not chants of honor, but murmurs of frustration. The cold spots are not just drops in temperature, but the chilling presence of something that desperately wants to get out. The mystery of the Senegambian Stone Circles becomes a story of ancient magic and eternal vigilance. So, when you visit these incredible monuments, remember what you are walking among. You are treading on ground that is both sacred and potentially dangerous. You are in the presence of a power you do not understand. Show respect. Do not touch what is not yours. Do not linger when the sun begins to set. Listen to the silence and feel the weight of the centuries. But be careful, the stones may be old and weathered, but they still hold their purpose. They are still watching, and they might still be listening for the sound of your footsteps.